What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. And no, I still don't know what to do with the back wall, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. I wanted to hop on though and just do a quick round robin around Eurasia, especially in regards to the question of is America's plate about to overflow? Has America finally bitten off more than it could chew? So, of course, a lot of this has been running up to the current state of things, but it really escalated under the Biden regime. And initially, when I started to see America draw down on these wars, Syria, Iraq, most infamously Afghanistan, we all remember the plane on the tarmac leaving out and people trying to run after it, cling on to it. That very dramatic scene, of course. I said, well, America is freeing itself up to have more leverage and leeway to operate. It's not going to be tied down in all these quagmires. One of the things that really made this come to the current state of things was, of course, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And I said, well, this is kind of going to be like a Afghan-Soviet war part two. It's going to be a war near Russia, actually on Russia's border, even more intense because Ukraine's going to have Western weapons now, as it's a significant sized country, one of the largest in Europe. It's going to have an energetic population. Remember the defacing or de-Russification of Ukraine. There is an energetic people looking to get away from Russia. And you're basically flipping one of Russia's biggest allies to now one of its biggest existential threats. So much so that Russia had to invade it. And I said this war is probably going to draw down on Russian resources the longer it go, of course. Now, that was one thing. So you have America drawing down in this quagmires, Russia now having existential threat on its border that it has to tend to urgently and intensively for all things considered. But now other things are starting to pop up. And some was anticipated, I imagine, and some wasn't. For the anticipated part, I will go to China. I think that Biden, like the Obama administration, which he served under, brought that concept of the pivot to Asia to his administration. And who knows how much of it is gamesmanship, but there are serious moves and commitment being made in the Indo-Pacific region. And of course, they combine this Indo-Pacific region, which is two different fears, I would like to say. And the reason why is because America is thoroughly engaged in the Pacific. But I don't think there's one true blue ally America have in the Indian Ocean. You can throw Australia in there. But outside of that, I think it's a relatively fair weather crowd you're dealing with on the Indian Ocean, and it's going to be a lot of transactional relationships. Along with that, don't forget the world's most populous nation sits at the center of the Indian Ocean. The ocean is named after India. And so when you say Indo-Pacific, kind of makes America seem like it has a lot more coverage than it do. America is thoroughly represented in the Pacific Ocean, thanks to World War II's defeat of Japan, as well as some Cold War moves such as South Korea. So, with the defeat of Japan, America built up strong alliances and relationships with Japan. They're going to be in those Pacific islands of Micronesia, protecting Hawaii, and Hawaii is going to be that center point of the Pacific Ocean, which America occupies. So America pretty much has one of the best geopolitical positions you can have with Hawaii in the middle of that Pacific Ocean. Cuts the Pacific Ocean into quadrants centered on those islands, which is the 50th U.S. state. And so you have Hawaii, you have Micronesia, you have Japan, you have South Korea, and then you also have I'll say a de facto relationship with Taiwan. And there's been some ramping up, some Congress people have gone to Taiwan. And like I said, it could be some gamesmanship, kind of keeping China off balance. America has a very strong relationship with China. America brought communist China into the WTO, into the modern day, and China used the economic model of other Asian nations of selling to America for its economic development, or a big driver in its economic development. So it has been some history, but the gamesmanship has gone up because China is steadfast on this one China policy, and it doesn't like to be challenged on that. So they've been moving a lot of these smaller South Pacific islands, um, primarily when you're dealing with the Melanesian Islands, the Solomon Islands, PNG, Papua New Guinea, New Caledonia, which the French occupy. You have AUKUS with Australia and America, UK. So it's a lot of things going on in the South Pacific. And although I think the Obama administration really championed the pivot east, I always felt as though the Middle East was a center. And the reason why I felt the Middle East was a center, because this is still an oil world. A lot of countries still need that fuel to drive their development and keep their countries running. So as long as the world was going to be looking for that, then I think that that was going to be the center of the geopolitical plate. And a lot of these countries in the Middle East, they're cashed up. And they have they're very active players in the geopolitical game. And I'm not going to throw the party in the bottle. We can also talk about the burgeoning population. And now, as we're seeing in the news, the powder keg that is Israel-Palestinian relations, which I think probably wasn't top of the radar. But of course, with the Hamas attack and the invasion of Gaza, the bombing and invasion of Gaza by Israel, the Middle East has once again turned into the Middle East. So, of course, what is this doing with an escalating war? You're bringing in Iran now. So what people are starting to say is, okay, you have America's bogged down with Ukraine, with the Russia situation. America's bogging itself down with the Taiwan-China situation and other relationships in the South Pacific, trying to guard their Western approaches. And now you have the situation in the Middle East where, as Israel continues to step up its escalation, Iran and its allies, such as the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas, of course, with the Palestinians, and Hezbollah and Lebanon, and who knows what else. Bashar al-Assad is getting his feet back under him in Syria as well. And these relationships, they're really starting to turn they can really get volatile at this point. America's already sent battleships to the Eastern Mediterranean. Now, of course, the fact that America has a collapse already is probably the greatest testament to market economies. Is the best advertising you can have for market economies. I don't know how anybody would want to control the economy. It's not that many countries in the world that can balance this with just a healthy debt, which America has. But because America has this robust commercial sector, it's kind of able to juggle all these balls in the air thus far. What's really going to be interesting, though, is how big are things going to get at this point, especially in Gaza. So the Chinese are going to be, I don't want to say pro-Arab or pro-Muslim, but they're definitely going to lean that way because China wants peace in the Middle East, because China needs all the oil in the Middle East. They don't want Iran to be bickering with Saudi Arabia because they want to build relationships with both to import resources from both. So, of course, China's going to lean on that side. And in my opinion, a lot of the Arab countries in this Palestinian, this Gaza war, Israel-Hamas war, have been keeping their powder dry. MBS, the leader of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, I actually think he is somewhat a revolutionary leader and has a vision of where he sees the future of the Middle East. And I don't think he's necessarily going to be a business as usual guy. Thus far in this war, he hasn't bucked the trend too much, but I've just saw that once again they're stepping up their relationships and camaraderie with Iran. So we'll see. Like those always within the last, we can go back to Saddam. Let's say last 30 years. This has kind of been a situation where you have Iran on one side and Saudi Arabia on the other side, but now you're starting to see this relationship with Saudi Arabia and Iran developing better relationships. And there's not as much contention and competition, more as some collaboration. So it's going to be interesting to see if these nations in the Middle East, such as UAE, Egypt, Syria, especially Egypt, Qatar, all these countries that are so pivotal in this region, how they start to respond as this Israel Hamas war escalate. Also, how long can China keep its patience? Or maybe China might get ambitious and say, America has so much on its plate, let's make a move for Taiwan. And also, how long can Russia be in Ukraine? I just saw Russia is once again stepping up attacks on Kyiv. This war is being a lot more drawn out than I thought. I thought the Russians was going to go in, head straight for Kyiv, split the country east and west, and call it a night. But Russia has remained steadfast on its Russian-speaking regions, but they continuously make incursions and bombing raids in farther western parts of the country. So America has pretty much holding hands with all these different countries, and it's going to be interesting to see how long they can keep these balls in the air without some of these conflicts coming to resolution. So if you was to ask me, I think that this Israel-Hamas is really volatile, and the sooner America can settle it, the better before it escalates. But who knows at this point? I'll definitely love to hear your thoughts. Comment below, like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.